I'm just trying to get the music going here.
We're seeing your cursor moving around on the screen. I wonder if
I know.
correct. Yeah.
I'm not
And so-
seeing my icon that says that I've attached music to it. All right, well, we'll just go ahead.
Behold, behold, I make all things new, beginning with you and starting from today. Behold, behold, I make all things new, my promise is true, for I am Christ the way. Behold, behold, I make all things new, beginning with you and starting from today. Behold, behold, I make all things new, my promise is true, for I am Christ the way. Behold, behold, I make all things new, beginning with you and starting from today. Behold, behold, I make all things new, my promise is true, for I am Christ the way.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Winfield United and our service for this Sunday, May the 15th. No matter who you are, no matter what you believe, no matter your journey, you are welcome here. And as we gather in this space, in our various Zoom spaces, we acknowledge and remember that we are in the traditional and unceded territory of the Soul Okanagan people. We are grateful for their stewardship of this land and its resources, and for their teachings. Now it comes to a moment where we introduce guests that are among us or that we know are among us somewhere in the house. Would there like to be anyone to have any guests they would like to introduce for us?
All together now. Hi, Griselda.
Hello, Griselda.
I'm trying to get her down here, I swear. Oh, I'm hearing footsteps. I'm hearing footsteps. Getting close.
Oh, good morning, Griselda. Good to see you again. Good morning. Welcome back.
She will hang around in the background and
Sure.
yeah.
Thank you. That would be great. Good to see you. And it's good
First
to
visit to Canada in almost 3 years. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Well, that is great to be having those travels resuming. Mhm.
Exactly.
Enjoy the visit.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And I think everybody else is known to us, I'm pretty sure. So, but welcome one and all. It's really good to be together today. We're going to carry on with our announcements in addition to the ones that you saw on the screen. I have Sandy Bagardis here with me, who's going to come forward and make a couple of announcements for us. Sandy.
Thanks, Joan. Hi, everybody. This, I promise, will be the last time I talk about the plant sale, but we have made 1,000 $638. And the plant sale is officially over. But we are going to offer a challenge to the next fundraising group to beat our total. Okay? I have one other announcement. As you know, in January, May had a fall and was not able to do the treasurer's report or do the treasurer's job. Is Lynn, are you here? Oh, she's
yep,
not?
She's there. Yep, she is.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anyway, Lynn stepped up to the plate and took over the responsibility of this for the last 3 months, along with all the other things she has on her plate. And we just want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts to Lynn. And May has been reinstated as the treasurer. And Lynn, we have a little gift for you the next time we see you, okay? So thank you so much.
Thanks, Sandy. And yes, I echo those words of gratitude to Lynn for stepping in to a really big job on short notice and to really looking at different ways that we can do that work of treasurer. And of course, welcome back to May, and such gratitude too for her willingness and to come back to that position for us and keep us going forward. Are there any other announcements to be shared at this time? If not, let us unmute our microphones and share with one another our God moments from the past week. Who would like to start us off?
I guess perhaps it falls on someone to start, but we all go through life with the expectation that things happen. This last week has been quite a challenge, but in it, as some of you may have noticed, we've kind of developed this attitude about the kamikaze birds that have been shutting down businesses with knocking power out and things like that. A couple of us usually go for breakfast each morning, and I arrived the first morning to find that the restaurant lights were on, and somebody was home, but the only thing they could offer me was a cup of coffee. One of my friends joined me, and we were having our cup of coffee, and out of what seemed to be nowhere, a young fellow, the cook for the restaurant, turned up with the most fantastic breakfast that you've ever seen in your life, that was prepared under less than ideal circumstances by using his iPhone to provide the light. I was so absolutely taken aback by this that, I mean, they were turning people away from the door, but because we were regular people that attended it, my partner and I or a friend and I were served fantastic breakfast. Under no circumstances would they accept payment. His attitude and the managers was that they had a responsibility to provide a meal for someone. And I kind of felt like a street person for a while, but it also made me appreciate the fact that people were prepared to go above and beyond in spite of a bird and in spite of garage doors not opening or anything else. The truly incredible part about this was it didn't happen once. It happened on 3 different occasions. It got to the point where I'm convinced that the owner believed that I had some hex that I put on that caused the restaurant not to be able to open. But I'd be remiss if I didn't take a couple of minutes of your time and mine to say thank you to those people that did that. They went out of their way, they went above and beyond. And yeah, I guess in their own way, they felt that they were providing a service to someone that wouldn't have had a means otherwise, because I really didn't have milk or eggs in my fridge at the time. I just believe that we have to look at things like this and be thankful that we live in a community where there are people that go above and beyond, not for what they're paid, not for how they're tipped, but for the fact of what they think is the right thing to do. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Gary, for sharing that God moment. Yeah, that's a lovely story. And it was Norman's, by the way, folks, in case you hadn't figured that out already. So shout out to Norman's today too. Any other God moments? If not, let us light our candles together. Jesus said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there. We light this candle as a reminder that we are not alone. May its flame warm our hearts and inspire us to live in the example of Jesus. Now, as we begin and gather together, let's start with a moment of quiet prayer and reflection. Holy One, you know our story. We gather this morning remembering the life and work of this community, and maybe remembering the good times, the sad times, and some bad times. We pray this time together for our memories, for stories that have been told and those that have been left unspoken. Strengthen us with generous spirits to receive those things that are difficult. May we celebrate and hold space for good healing and things to come, things that we long to share with our world. There is nowhere we can go where your spirit of love is not already there. We pray these things in all names that are holy. Amen. Our opening hymn this morning is from Voices United. In the bulb, there is a flower.
In the bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in the cones a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, but it holds a mystery, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. In the end is all beginning, in our time infinity. In our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. In our death the resurrection, and the last a victory. Unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see.
I'm going to invite Fran Schultz to unmute her microphone and share in today's reading with us. Fran.
There, it finally worked. This morning's reading is from Psalm 139. It describes this altar's relationship to a God who is steadfast and ever present through good times and bad. It speaks to the beauty of fully known, accompanied on life's journey and cared for by a God that is limitless and all-knowing. I invite you to close your eyes as you hear its words that may be all too familiar or perhaps new and for the very first time. Where does this psalm take you? Reading Psalm 139, verses 1 through 18. O Lord, you have searched and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your right hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and night wraps itself around me, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. For it was you who formed my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes beheld my unformed substance. In your book was written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed. How weighty to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. I try to count them. They are more than the sand. I come to the end, and I am still with you. May these words open up to the presence, to the Spirit's presence.
And may wisdom come to us this day. Thank you, Fran. On Tuesday, one of you came to me to tell me of a story found in the pages of the current issue of Broadview. It details a painful time in the history of Winfield United and one woman's traumatic story of abuse at the hands of her minister. I want to affirm my support of Deanna and the courage that she found to tell her story publicly and extend our wholehearted compassion to her and her family as she continues down the road of healing and restoration. There is support for all who wish to tell their story. Truth is life. The Broadview story, which details events that took place here in 1985, is a difficult one. For those of you who were here at this time and remember confusion over your minister's disappearance and the lack of closure that you were provided. Now there are some answers. Perhaps there is now an opportunity to make some semblance of sense of what happened during the time Bruce Griffin served here among you. As I shared in my letter of Friday, the church is here to support us. I want to share with you all a letter that our executive minister from Pacific Mountain, Trina Duncan, sent to us. She writes, "Dear friends, as I write this letter to you as the community of Winfield United Church, I'm reflecting on Paul's words from the book of Romans. Nothing can separate us from God, the love of God." When something like the Broadview magazine's June 2022 article, Betrayed, is published and circulated without informing some of those named in the piece, your community of faith, it can be easy to doubt how we are connected and where trust can be found as a church. These are challenging times to be a people of faith and in ministry. Our world has experienced wildfires, the discovery of children's graves, earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, pandemic, war, and economic downturn. Yet, as an Easter people, we are called to remember that even in the midst of the darkest times, we are not alone. God is with us. It's with this deeply held belief, embedded in our United Church of Canada Creed and Paul's words of assurance, we can know and trust God's love for us abounds, even when we fail to be the church we are called to be. Betrayed highlights one time when the church was an instrument of harm. And it's very hard when we find out or know that it happened in an earlier generation of your community of faith. Some of you may have been members of Winfield in the 1980s, may have been friends with or known Dina Hills, and may have known Bruce Griffins as your minister. Some of you will have joined more recently, and this may be the first you're hearing of this part of your community's history. I know that all of you are impacted by Ms. Hill's story being published. I feel compassionate concern for your community of faith, and I'm very sorry that we were not made aware of the planned publication. Advance notice would have allowed us to anticipate the story's potential impact on your ministry and be ready to respond to your community's needs. The United Church of Canada has a sexual abuse prevention policy that states, the United Church of Canada will not tolerate and will seek to eradicate any behavior by its members, lay and order of ministry, adherents or employees that constitute sexual misconduct, sexual abuse, or child abuse. The United Church of Canada is committed to providing a safe environment for worship, work, and study in all pastoral charges, congregations, institutions, agencies, and organizations, or other bodies that operate under its name. Complaints of sexual misconduct, sexual abuse, or child abuse will be taken seriously and will be dealt with in a spirit of compassion and justice. This policy was in its infancy in the 1980s, but had in place mechanisms to act and discipline abusive clergy in our church. Mr. Griffith was removed from ministry and his ordination as a United Church minister was revoked. Since that time, our policy has grown to intentionally offer more support to all who are involved in the complaint that is being responded to, including the community of faith. Communication in these matters and every effort is made to share the steps and processes of a complaint so that people know all the aspects of the complaint are being addressed. Since its initial development, many learnings have happened and improvements have been made in our sexual abuse prevention policy. But we recognize that we need to continue to grow and evolve and adjust our processes accordingly. #MeToo and #Thursdays in Black have taught us sexual abuse is an ongoing reality for too many and needs to be addressed with intentionality. I felt sadness reading Ms. Mills' words. I am deeply sorry that she was not supported at the time and that Ms. Mills has had to endure the impacts of such abuse alone for so many years. It took courage for Ms. Mills to speak openly. Many victims are silenced, and Ms. Hill's story is a reminder to us the relief and healing that can come when victims are silenced, victims are listened to and cared for. I'm grateful that she was able to speak her truth and receive compassionate care from the church. And if this situation has impacted you personally, please be in contact with a consultant for support. And she provides the link to do just that. Trina goes on to write, please know that the region is here to walk with all of you through this journey of listening and healing. In the coming days and weeks, we will be in conversation with the leadership at Winfield United Church to determine how best to support you. May you know deep within your heart, we are not alone. Thanks be to God. Blessings. Trina Duncan, Executive Minister, Pacific Mountain Region. So where do we go from here? As your minister, I encourage us to invite the region to come and lead a listening circle with us. Telling our story helps to make sense of what's happened in a healthy and supported way. There is no statute of limitations. There is no once and for all window of opportunity to share your story. If you have painful memories, you will not be compelled to share them at the listening circle unless you want to. A listening circle will be an opportunity for us to process this part of Winfield United's history and lay it to rest. Maybe it's sort of like holding a funeral service. It will provide us as a whole community the opportunity to find closure. It won't erase the past, but it will help us make sense of it in healthy ways. I am asking for some indication from you all as to what needs we have and how they can be best addressed. I would ask you to let myself or Sandy Bogardus know your interest in having a learning circle or any other ideas that would be helpful to us in this time. I chose Psalm 139 as our reading this morning. It's kind of my go-to when I am in need of comfort and some peace within myself. I believe this psalm resonates with each of us, regardless of our theology and belief. It reminds me of all the ways that my life is intertwined with the divine goodness, a God who never tires of my complaints or my laments, a God who celebrates my successes and best made and carried out plans. There is nowhere I can go that the Spirit of God is not already there. When I rise up and when I rise down, I am known and loved just as I am, and there I find great comfort. I am never alone. We are never alone. God is with us in this place. I know that this is not a typical reflection, but it is far from a typical Sunday morning. I want us to hold space for those who were part of that time and suffered and were confused by what happened, and ensure that support is available. This is the work that is to be done, and I hope we do it in the spirit of Psalm 139, knowing that we are cared for and that our concerns will be heard. Copies of Trina's letter are available to you here at the church, or just make a request of the office and we will email you a copy, as well as the details on how you can access a consultant to the policy should you need to do so. I am open and available to support and to listen whenever you need to talk. These coming weeks, as we heal from this, I encourage us to be gentle with ourselves and with one another. What does a good ending to this story look like? What can we do to help us move forward? We will do this together with discretion and compassion and with loving kindness. I leave you this morning with the words of Julian Norwich. All shall be well. All shall be well. All manner of things shall be well. Peace be with you all, and amen. I'm going to invite Fran once again to unmute her microphone and share with us today's Minute for Mission story. Fran.
Camp is more than a holiday. It gives young people skills that last a lifetime. Kathleen is a special education teacher, a busy mom of 3 children under the age of 5, and a youth and young adults coordinator at her church. She says her early summer church camp experience continues to impact her approach to each of these important roles. Camp taught me that children are precious and we're there to help them and guide them. Vespers taught me to take a deep breath in times of stress. Chaplains showed me how to bring out the best in children and draw out their talents. All those things I learned from camp I now apply to my everyday world, including motherhood, says Kathleen. Kathleen grew up in very formal churches where she felt that she had to be perfect all the time. Outdoors, in an informal setting, her faith blossomed. I never felt really connected to God before going to camp. It opened up my perspective of what church is. My relationship with God expanded. I learned to pray, to reflect, and to experience God in nature. Those early lessons continue to ground Kathleen in trying moments. Today, because I learned to connect with God in nature, I can take time to reflect and I can show God's love. When I'm too stressed, I can take a quick look at a bird or tree and remember that God is with me when a student is expressing their frustration. Staying calm and showing God's love is huge. It goes a long way. I remind my own children that God is with them, even in the hardest times too, she says. Before COVID, approximately 20,000 children attended a United Church camp every year. During the pandemic, many camps provided virtual support to young people during lockdown. I just want to say a huge thank you to mission and service donors for their support of camps, said Kathleen. I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for their support. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. And as I shared with the in-person service this morning, Camp Mackenzie, which is our nearest United Church camp, I believe, is opening for programming this summer, which is wonderful news. So if you have young campers in your family that might be interested in attending, just stop by the office if you'd like a brochure or look them up online. They also have some fundraising initiatives coming up to help, of course, as you can imagine, fund the costs of keeping the camp operational and with all of its current requirements in place. So that those will be provided in the Sunday Skim in the weeks going forward. So thank you. We now come to our place in the service where we look deep within ourselves and see what's there this morning. What's the concern that you want to name among the support of this gathered community and what we call family? So I invite you to bring those to mind as we start off in prayer together. Let us pray. God, do we know what to say this day? What to pray for? We come with needs and hurts, histories and futures that confound us sometimes. We offer our prayers, our yearnings in this present moment, and all that we have to share as this community. We offer prayers this morning for all who are in need, for those who are feeling burdened and overwhelmed by life and need compassion, for those who are lonely and need a friend and a companion. For those who are victims of abuse and need justice and healing and acceptance of their story. For those who are hungry and living rough and need the basic necessities of life. For those who are sick and need healing and restoration. And we carry into this prayer space our own concerns and needs. And I invite you now to unmute your microphone and share those things with one another.
I pray for support for our congregation as we go through our own truth and reconciliation in dealing with this minister, Bruce Griffin, and the damage that he did. And I have to, excuse me, I have to say I'm also, I want to say a prayer of thanks that this has come to light as I think it should have many years ago. It felt like a terrible injustice at the time to those who, you know, the whole congregation was affected by this. And yeah, it's a very confusing thing to work through. So I pray that our congregation can do some things that will find some healing. I think that's really important. Amen.
We pray for those in our community close to home and to our hearts. We pray for Len and Mary Jo and family on the passing of Ron this week, Len's brother. We pray for Greg and for Melanie, for Gary, for Kendra, for Tom and for Muriel, for Ron and for Karen, for Joyce B, for Craig, for Tiana, for Tova and Gordon, for Christopher, for Jerry and Lou, for Doug G, for Sam and family, for Christine, for Peter and for Madeline, for Sharon, Catherine, and Stephen, and for Vonda and family. We gather these things, these loved ones and situations into one, and in the silence of this space, pray the words that have the most meaning for us, or simply reflect on all that has been shared. Amen. Our closing hymn this morning is from More Voices, My Soul Cries Out.
My soul cries out with a joyful shout that the God of my heart is great, and my spirit sings of the wondrous things that you bring to the one who waits. You fix your sight on the servant's plight, and my weakness did not spur. So from east to west shall my name be blessed. Let the world be about to turn. My heart shall sing of the day you bring. Let the fires of your justice burn. Wipe away all tears, for the dawn draws near, and the world is about to turn. Though I am small, my God, my all, you work great things in me, and your mercy will last from the depths of the past to the end of the age to be. Your very name puts the proud to shame, and to those who would go for you. You will show your might, put the strong to flight, for the world is about to turn. My heart shall sing of the day you bring. Let the fires of your justice burn. Wipe away all tears, for the dawn draws near, and the world is about to turn. From the halls of power to the fortress tower, not a stone will be left on stone. Let the king beware, for the justice tears every tyrant from his throne. The hungry poor shall weep no more, for the food they can never burn. There are tables spread, every mouth be fed, for the world is about to turn. My heart shall sing of the day you bring. Let the fires of your justice burn. Wipe away all tears, for the dawn draws near, and the world is about to turn.
It's been good to be in this space with you all this morning. Blessings, friends, and take gentle care of yourself these coming days as we walk this road together. Again, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me if I can be of any support or you're in need of any resources. And I do look forward to hearing your thoughts about what a listening circle might look like for us. As we go, let us unmute our microphones and share with one another our words of blessing and sending forth. As we go, we will count our blessings,
We will
Count
count our
Blessings.
blessings,
Blessings.
embody our faith,
embody our faith,
live an authentic life,
live an authentic life,
never look down on the struggle for life.
never look down on the struggle for life.
Notice behind every face, there's a soul at work.
Notice behind every face there is a soul at work.
And know that wherever we go,
And know that wherever we go,
the Spirit of God is already there.
the Spirit of God is already there.
Amen.
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 Good to see you all.
Here we go.
And if people want to share their thoughts about what they heard this morning in this space, you are welcome to do that. Or if you have questions that I might be able to answer.
Joan, I found your I found your message just so full of compassion and caring, and such a safe place for people who have been affected by what happened in 1985, or even in other ways in their life. And I particularly liked your reference to the listening circle as being treated much the same as a funeral. I thought that was a very meaningful way to hopefully put it to rest. So thank you.
You're welcome, Fran. Thank you.
I thought it was interesting, Fran, that your reading about the Minute for Mission was about the United Church camp experience, and somebody celebrating it as, you know, an important service. And really, you know, that is the kind of institution historically that has produced a lot of harm to children in particular, whatever the organization. It's just an institutional thing. There is isolation, et cetera, et cetera. And in a way, paying a tribute to the work of that kind of institution today, about which we gladly have not had accusations of impropriety or abuse that I'm aware of, suggests that there may have been institutional learning since 1985. And last thing I would say is it's almost unthinkable to me today that such a congregation should give rise to that kind of abuse, not least because we have a female minister, and that is typically not something that women do, at least to the same degree. And most of our leading figures are women, and if there were even a breath of rumor about anything like that occurring, I'm sure it would be monitored, that there would be numerous people that could be approached about it, and appropriate action would be taken very promptly. So I do hope we have meaningfully moved forward since that terrible time.
Indeed. Yeah, it's hard to compare the two times, present day to 1985. It's sort of like apples and oranges, and you know, in church policy and enactment of those things, and just how far we've come as a society around issues of, you know, of abuse and impropriety. Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that I really support the idea of a healing circle, or whatever you call that, because I think, you know, it was a very confusing time, and because, you know, I have to tell you that it was extremely upsetting. I remember now, I was actually on council at the time, and I recall being blindsided that he was being removed like this, because I had no knowledge of what was happening. And the presbytery did, I think, a very poor job of handling it. It was all basically, it looked like it was swept under the rug, and it was all a personnel issue. But it was a big issue because, you know, I think, he was quite a pervasive individual, you know, and really had a lot of groups in the community, or at least, you know, quite, he had a lot of active work going on as a minister, at what he considered to be a minister. And so, you know, I do think that, you know, when I remember, one of the big things that happened to us in 1985 was that my father-in-law passed away from cancer. And Bruce came to my father-in-law several times, said prayers with the family, and he did the service. And we, we felt that was great. There was nothing weird or anything. It was all kind of on the up and up. This was in May of 1985. The issues, I think, developed through the year. He was new in, I think, January. He did, I remember there was a meditation circle or something like this that he had. And I did go to one of those things, but I just didn't feel comfortable attending that. So I didn't go again. But what I found disturbing, I think, really disturbing, was that he could be one type of person who appeared to be representing God in, the way that you would expect. And then really there was another side. And it made me feel that I had been in touch with evil.
Yeah.
Evil. That's what I felt. I still remember that feeling of that was evil. And, if there ever is a devil, well, I think I met that person. And, it shows you how psychopaths can be easily misunderstood or mistaken, because they have that ability to cover. And anyways, I just mentioned that. I do have to go. My grandkids are waiting for me to pick them up. So, but I just wanted to share that. I do think that, I felt so confused for a period of years there, and really let down. I mean, I never want to leave the United Church, but, I knew Dina, and I knew the family, and I knew stuff that was going on, and I didn't know it at the time. I knew it later, and I really felt that that she was really let down, and so we never should ever let that happen again. I mean, it's not just the people that are Indigenous that have suffered. There are other people that have and do, and because a person is a minister, they are a person. That's something we have to remember. They have to be answerable to our laws like anybody else. And, that was just a weird thing that happened to our congregation. Anyways, have a good week.
Thank you, Penny. That was really helpful. Before you go sharing that, because I think it can't be just my, suggestions.
No.
It needs to come from you all. So that was very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks.
My first reaction when I saw that article was, to put it bluntly, I was somewhat distressed. I had the occasion to relate back to where I was in 1987. I was going through some pretty traumatic experiences at that time. Fortunately, not of a sexual nature, because I was a male. But I also related to the fact that I had turned to my church community to offer assistance or counseling or whatever at that time, such as it existed. And I was very much assured of the fact that the conversations could be held at any time, but they would be in confidence. And that once we were through with the conversation, we would go on, and although we might not have a solution to the problem such as it existed, we would move on, and the problem such as it existed would kind of take some time, but it would correct itself. And so consequently, it gave me cause to go back and look at those circumstances again. And I kind of had, my first reaction was, we were taught that our function, a big function, was to forgive and to forget and to move on. I since come to the realization that the people that were involved have every right to conversation, to reviewing the problems such as they came out of them. And so, as I said, it brought up some different feelings, even though I wasn't a member of the congregation here. As an outsider involved with the church, I was affected by it. And I think the conversation thing would be, the listening circle would be a good experience.
Thank you, Gary.
I was part of the church at that time, and I remember a lot of it. I knew Dina, and there was also, and in that article, it mentions the other person who did not speak. I wonder how she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my concern is there. And my concern is other people that were involved, not as deeply as that were really hurt. The way he left on Christmas Eve, halfway through his service. I mean, that was very painful for a lot of people in the congregation.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know a lot about it. And Bruce actually kept in contact with me after he left that church, which I really wonder, he wanted money. You know, and there's things like that went on too, that people really don't understand. And the thing to remember, it wasn't only our church that has been affected by that. I know as a retired minister, I know of several other churches that have gone through things like this in the United Church. You know, so I find it very, very sad. And the one thing Penny said that really touched me, she called it a healing circle, not a learning circle. And I think the word healing is really important here and something we need to remember.
Mm-hmm.
It's a listening circle. That's the term the region
Mhm.
is using. But yes, it does imply healing. You're right, Rhonda. Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Muriel and I came to the church in early 1993. Excuse me. Sorry. And I recall some conversation around this and never really understood what it was about. And now it leaves me wondering, we've heard of 2 individuals that were directly affected. I'm now wondering if there were others in the congregation who may have left as a result of that and have maybe just disappeared from our lives. And I also wonder about the various people in the church, those that were on council at the time, who probably were very much affected by it, and of course the other congregation members. I look forward to being part of that learning circle, even though I wasn't directly affected. But I look forward to that and hopefully being able to provide some support and words of comfort.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah. With that in mind, it's time for us to sign off, and I wish everybody a peaceful and loving week. We will see you next week.
Okay. Bye, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Bob, how are you feeling, Bob, this week?
There. Well, not too bad. Brenda's very fatigued still, but I'm getting along fairly well.
That's good news.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
A long time for you, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, very fortunate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just want to add my support for having a listening circle. I think that would be very important. I was part of the congregation at the time, and certainly there's a lot of, it was, I don't expect it was dealt with well at all. Most of us were flummoxed by this, sudden exit of Bruce, and I think it would be very beneficial to for people to be able to listen to others and share their experiences. And I have to say that my heart goes out to Dina. It's a difficult thing to come forward, and I don't. It sounds like she did not get very appropriate support from the greater church, and perhaps in some way our congregation can put together some sort of a letter or something, just letting Dina know that we can't right those wrongs, but our hearts go out to her that she has, dealt with this burden all this time. I think it would be, and for all of us, I think it would be beneficial to have the listening circle. I thought Penny had made some very good points. Per usual. Anyway, thank you, Joan. You are the perfect person to be leading us. We're so fortunate to have your guidance and your manner of just being dealing with things as they come. Thank you so much.
So welcome. Thank you. I shared with the earlier service, I have just been overwhelmed by the shows of support of me this week from all of you. And I just say back, I'm just worried about all of you, and you're worried about me, and I just want to build like a little brick wall around us to protect us, but can't happen. No, because we are going to protect one another, but we're also going to look at this part of our past and be open to what those stories can illuminate for us, even in painful moments. That's kind of what a funeral does sometimes, You don't just bury people that you, loved and cared about. There's difficult people too that are entitled to a funeral, I guess. So, and your point about reaching out to Dina was well spoken also, Anne, and I think there is a lot of support to do that. And we're going to look at the best way with the region's help to see how we can let Dina know how we are feeling and to show our support of her. Yeah. It took a lot of courage what she did.
Yeah.
And it's easy for us to be angry that we didn't get a heads up, but you know what? That story had to be told, and we just keep going forward.
I don't think we want to allow that to take away from the experience. No, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
What issue of Broadview was that in? I didn't see it in the April, May.
It was June one. Yeah.
The one that came probably in your mail this week, Bob, or very soon if it hasn't. So,
Bob, it's the one that has the picture of the dancing guy on the cover.
Yeah, the signal's all breaking up. Maybe you could put it in the chat.
Oh,
that would probably come through.
The latest issue, yeah.
Yeah, it's the June issue. It should be
June, okay.
coming to you this week if you haven't received it already. Yeah.
It's here somewhere.
Okay, yeah, you'll find it there.
It's blue and it has a dancing guy on the cover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably with my missing tooth and my lost hearing aids.
And Sharon, I'm not just trying to look for people to appreciate, but you are a blessing in our midst as well, because you are, I find walking into the church between you and Joan, you just give off rays of sunshine and smiles, and both of you are just so appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
On that note, I'm leaving.
Okay.
Take good care this week.
Thank you.
Diane.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah.
I was shocked, I guess, last week or 10 days ago when we go out for lunch with a couple that have been in Elwood's life for as long as he's been in Kelowna. And she's a retired elementary school teacher. No, they had no children, but she started opening up to me about how she was abused by both her mother and father. He was a doctor. Both of them were alcoholics, and how her safe place was being able to open up to a few of her teachers who provided space for them. And she still hasn't, I mean, she's still dealing with this just through some of her ways in which she manages her life. And I'm going, one of how many hundreds of thousands of people that are still waiting to be found. You know, it's just so heartbreaking. But yeah, so anything that we can do to listen to other people, for sure.
Absolutely.
When I came to Vernon in the 80s, the head of Mara House, which was the home for disturbed kids, was a pederast, and the head of the Boys and Girls Club was a pederast, and one of the teachers was. It was pretty nasty. But those folks go where the prey is. Scary stuff.
Hmm.
And my brother said it's good with the Catholics. They at least dress them up so you can see who they are. It's kind of a nasty thing.
Well, I hope everybody has a good week, and we will see you in person next Sunday.
Okay, Fran, looking forward
Okay.
to that.
Okay.
Yep.
We haven't heard from the gardeners this morning.
Who's that, Bob?
We haven't heard from the gardeners this morning.
The gardeners. Oh.
Yeah, the flowers are coming out, and
Oh,
nature's
colder.
beauty is coming out.
yeah.
Well, before I hit the leave the meeting button, last year I planted 150 bulbs in the front yard and a few in the backyard. And they were all different kinds of tulips. And they have come up in an array of absolute magnificence. And most of them are parrot tulips with the very, very frilly edges on them. And they have stayed in full bloom for well over 5 weeks now. And it's only because we haven't had any hot weather. But I mean, I walk out of the door every morning and there's my God moment. So this gardener's very happy.
Good.
Are those the bulbs? Are those the bulbs that Dave Reed donated last year?
No. Well, no, I bought these from Botanis on the coast. They shipped them to me. So yeah, I should
wonderful.
send you a few shots of them because they're showstoppers. I'm just really thrilled. So
Dave Reed has this amazing idea for the grassy area at the south end of the property, that we plant tulips and sunflowers there, and we could open like a cut flower garden. Wouldn't that be beautiful?
it would be.
Last week I spent over $50 on bulbs, but they all screw in.
Mm. Oh,
I'm afraid that's the extent of my gardening experience.
Just as a
I used to buy
suggestion,
one. I used to buy one plant a year at the Trinity sale and take it home and kill it.
well, I'm sure they appreciate your support, Bob.
Yes.
For you, we'll have a silk flower sale.
Yeah.
Gary?
I was just going to suggest years ago, Ladysmith started throwing out in their yard waste on the side of the road crocus and snowflower and all these other various corms and things like that, and they were put in the area around where the park by the old colliery slag piles. It's just a sea of blossoms in the spring. They regenerate every year. They're the first flowers that you see generally, and their cost is totally insignificant, and they're lawnmower proof. You can run the lawnmower over them, and the next day there's another blossom back. So just as a suggestion, it might be an idea to put a few of those into.
Mhm.
I'm not a gardener. I trust me.
No, but some of us are.
Yeah. Have a safe week, all.
You too, Gary. Take good
Take
care.
care.
Yeah.
So long.
Bye,
Okay.
Jim.
Yeah.
Have a good week. Bye, Arlene. Okay, have a good week, everybody. Bye.
Bye
Anita.
now.
Okay. I will shut her down.
Okay, take care,
Okay.
everybody.
All right. Have a great week. Thank you.
Bye.